Okay. Welcome to November 10th's Microsoft Security Office Hours for Education. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. Today's topic is Compliance Manager and what the premium assessments and standard assessments look like and how you can kind of start leveraging this in your environment to work on improving your compliance frameworks. It's going to be super fun. Everybody loves compliance. Our guest speaker today is Caiden, who's one of our security technical specialists on the team. Super excited to have him here. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Caiden.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Hey, everyone. I am incredibly excited to talk to y'all about Compliance Manager. I am probably one of the few people that actually looks forward to talking about compliance because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to do the initial, okay, what do we need to do? Where does our data live? And then actually rolling out those controls. I mean, that's several full-time jobs right there. So Compliance Manager, I'm super excited about because it is going to allow us to take some of that work off of our backs, get rid of some of that initial discovery work, and then, help us figure out how we need to move forward to make sure that we are being compliant. And maybe my PowerPoint is going to move forward. Sometimes PowerPoint does not like me. There we go. So we'll go ahead and jump over to the slide that kind of goes over the challenges that we are seeing in today's day and age. So we are seeing a rapidly evolving landscape. We are seeing that on average, there are about 220 updates per day from 1,000 regulatory bodies. We've heard from multiple research showing that rapidly changing requirements is one of the biggest challenges compliance personas are facing today. As a result, compliance teams are pretty much stuck on the defense. They are only able to react. They're not able to get ahead. There's a lot of work involved in this. And then we also are seeing that a lot of companies are relying on manual and point-in-time assessments. Sorry, one second. My daughter just came in the room. Okay. Where was I at? Okay, yeah, point-in-time assessment. So companies are, they're having an assessment once a year or 4 times a year, but you do pose the risk of things going out of date between those assessments. So we are, happy to create a tool that's going to help integrate better across systems and give you, near real-time assessments. We're also finding that there isn't a lot of knowledge or subject matter experts, as Microsoft calls them, around compliance. So we'll have a lot of schools, particularly in K-12, where you've got one IT person wearing all of the hats for them to make sure that they're actually meeting their compliance needs. And we are back to PowerPoint not wanting to move forward. Okay, there we go. So this is what the Compliance Manager dashboard it looks like. You get a really nice overview. We'll dig into this in a live demo in just a second, but it's going to give you a breakdown of the improvement actions that you need to take, what you've done, what you've failed, as well as what is making up your compliance score based off of specific categories. And then you can also look at it based off of assessments that you're applying. So there are a couple of use cases for Microsoft Compliance Manager. The first one being you can use it to build out data protection controls and measure the controls effectiveness against the baseline. So it's going to help you establish and maintain technical, procedural, and people controls for your organization. It will let you help you get ahead of compliance. And then we also have managing IT risks. This is daunting and challenging, and it's hard to just jump into this and get everything secure in a weekend. There is a lot of work. if managing IT risks is a part of your responsibility, you can start leveraging the compliance manager to assess and monitor the controls that can help you reduce those risks. We have out-of-box assessments for Office 365 and Intune. And then for organizations that are subject to privacy regulations like GDPR or CCPA or HIPAA, compliance manager is going to give you guidance to implement those controls with the assessments that they have. And then finally, that last main use case is that you can use it to record your control details and store your evidence. So if you are facing an internal or an external audit, you're going to be able to use use Compliance Manager to say, hey, these are the things we're doing. They meet these requirements, and this is how we're doing it. And then we have a ton of out-of-box assessment templates. There are some free ones and there are some premium ones. Definitely something that your account team can talk to you about, or your licensing expert. You also do have the ability to create your own assessment templates based off of whatever is relevant to you. And then just a nice quick slide on what the journey looks like when you start using Compliance Manager. Once you jump in there, you're going to start with a data protection baseline, and then you can scale out based off of the type of compliance requirements that you have. And then you're going to be able to, again, if you get audited, say, hey, yeah, we are doing all of these things, look. And then you're going to be able to leverage the advanced capabilities once you get through this. So that is it for my slides. I never like to do death by PowerPoint. So we will jump over to a demo, and I'm actually going to put us into this tenant here. And while I am working through the live demo, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute and just interrupt me. I will go off on tangents, and if you need to say something, say something. So here we are in the Compliance Admin Center. When we come in, you load onto the home page, you've got a nice overview. Just below it is our lovely Compliance Manager. Once this loads up, we're going to get an overview of your compliance score. Like I was showing in that PowerPoint, you're going to see the points that you've currently achieved, but you're also going to be able to see the Microsoft managed points achieved. So because this is public cloud, there are things that Microsoft are responsible for maintaining and making sure that they're compliant. So you're going to have the ability to get insight to that as well. And then once you scroll down, you're going to see this compliance score breakdown. It's going to say, okay, out of everything that I'm doing in here, what is driving up my score and what is pulling my score down? In this case, privacy management, information governance are, my major weak points. I am doing well in other places. So you can get a nice overview on that. And then you can drill into those and, specifically go into the improvement actions for each of these categories. And then we'll go ahead. We can see the overall improvement actions that are recommended. We can come in and filter. When we look at the points that you have the ability to achieve, the higher the point value, the more important it is to getting a solution in place. We have the same feature within the security center, so you can go in and see your secure score. We have these different scores all across our products. So looking at these are going to give you a good idea of what your security posture is on a very basic level. And then let's go ahead and jump into the assessments, which is the cool parts of, in my opinion, I know this is being recorded, so I should definitely say that it's my opinion that the assessments are probably one of the coolest parts of the Compliance Manager. So we have the ability to come in here, grab an assessment template. We can look at it, we can modify them, we can see which ones are paid, which ones are free. assessment. In this case, I have already started running my data protection baseline. We can come in here and see exactly what we have going on according to my baseline. So we can see I'm not doing too well. We can see that Microsoft is pulling their weight, but I am obviously not pulling my weight in my demo tenant. So we are going to be able to see the key improvement actions. Again, this is going to give you a point impact number. The higher the number is, the more important it is that you have a control in place for this. But we will get back to these improvement actions in just a second. We can come in and see, where our controls have failed, where we don't have any, where they're being processed, and then if we have any that have passed as well. And then we can drill down even further. So fantastic. We have, a nice graph that is going to tell us which category, which control has failed, passed, in progress, etc. And then you can drill down even further. So if we come and we look at awareness and training, we can see the status. So I don't have annual role-based training. We have the improvement actions that you can take. You can see that there's seven total actions that we can take. We can see that Microsoft has completed 5 of 5 actions that Microsoft can take. And then when we jump over to our improvement actions here, this is going to break it down based off of this template that I have built out. So obviously I had a whole bunch of improvement actions out here, but these ones are going to be related to the assessment template that I have made my assessment from. So if you're doing HIPAA, CCPA, anything like that, it'll be based off of those regulations. We'll come in here and find a fun one. Yeah, let's go into applied sensitivity labels. Why not? So when we actually go in and start looking at the actions that we can take, you're going to see that there's going to be a way for you to manage these. So you have the option to assign these to your users. You're also going to get recommendations on how to implement this. You're going to be able to see, okay, are there licensing requirements? Are there permission requirements for my user to be able to go in here and set up sensitivity labels? You're going to be able to hit launch now, and it's going to take you over to the spot in the portal where you can start creating these. And then it also is going to give you the Microsoft documentation. You also have the ability to come in and add notes to the implementation. So let's say, for instance, we have a request in here saying, hey, we need to roll out an MFA. I have MFA rolled out. If I know anything, I know that it's to roll out MFA. But if I was rolling out MFA not using Azure, say I was using Duo or some other third-party product, I would be able to come in here and say that we have an alternative implementation, and it's going to mark this as good. And then you can put some notes in here, we use Duo and get that saved, and it will update the report at the end once you have gone through all the steps that you want to go through. And then we can come back and see how this actually maps to the other controls. So not only is applying sensitivity labels to protect sensitive or critical data, it's not only helping it with our privacy compliance, it's helping with risk assessment, system and information integrity, as well as our zero trust data. So by doing this, we're gaining points in these other areas as well. And let's go back to the data protection. And then this is really cool. So we can actually go in and look and see what is Microsoft doing to make sure that they are also compliant. So we can come in, we can drill down a little bit deeper to exactly what it means when we say that we are, meeting this requirement. We have our notes in there that you have the ability to go in and read. And then, again, it's going to show that it's passed, that this is something that Microsoft is handling. Action scope is global. I always do that search. As well as, dive in a little bit deeper. Same thing, but, what is Microsoft doing to ensure that we are also compliant? And then once we get through all of this, we can actually come in and generate a report. I'm not going to generate a report because it takes about 30 seconds and I'm impatient. I already have one that I have exported, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to give you the control family, the control, the title, the description, the action recommendation, the action description, as well as any notes that you are adding in around implementation. So this is a way to say, yes, we have done all of these things and here's our notes on it. Really nifty, just a nice Excel spreadsheet. You're able to share that with whoever needs access to it and say, yes, we are doing these things. So that's all I had to share with y'all on Compliance Manager. Nice, quick, easy demo. Are there any questions?
There's nothing in the chat, but feel free to ask away, everybody.
I had a question I was following along, and in the assessment templates, there's a data baseline, Microsoft 365, and a universal product. What's the difference when you add a assessment template?
Yeah, these two, the data protection baseline for Microsoft 365 and the universal one. Yeah. I don't actually know what the difference is on these templates. We can take a peek into them. Go ahead.
So they're actually the same exact template. So what Microsoft is doing as part of the most recent Ignite announcement is Compliance Manager is now being developed to also incorporate or encompass assessments against third-party solutions that are not in Microsoft 365. So what they started doing first is all of our, most of, I should say, of our premium templates and our standard templates will have an encompassing universal template. The universal template simply means it just does not check against Microsoft 365 directly and leaves it as a blank canvas, if you will, that you can then leverage for something third party like, say, Salesforce or Google Workspace or whatever you might have within your environment that you want to also track and document what your overall compliance looks like.
So would you create like a new assessment and call it, for example, Salesforce, and then use the template baseline universal for that?
So you could. So what I would typically recommend is to use what we call like a compliance group or a grouping. So when you create a grouping, it can be based on whatever makes most logical sense for your org, but a lot of times people will typically do it based on framework. So let's just use data protection baseline as an example, since that's the topic at the moment. So you could create a group just called data protection baseline, and then underneath that, you would create various assessments. So you might use the one that's specifically for M365, because then obviously it'll do the auto testing against our services directly for you. And then you would create a couple of universal ones based off that data protection baseline universal template that you can then leverage against things like Salesforce or Google Workspace and all that. And you would have each of those individual assessments labeled based on the product that you're assessing.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And just keep in mind, the universal templates are part of the premium assessment templates as far as pricing goes. So they would be an additional cost outside of the compliance manager that you would get as part of something like M365A3 or M365A5.
So for the NIST templates, it has user-defined specifications in their controls. How do you handle those user-defined specifications?
Nick or Sam, do you by chance have an answer to that?
So the user defined within a template, is that what you're asking, John?
Yes, within the template. So any of the controls have a user-defined parameter. So how do you do that with your compliance?
I don't actually know off the top of my head. Sam, do you happen to know? It's a great question.
I do not.
I am taking it down as follow-up, and then I will reach out to you, John.
Yeah, 171 doesn't quite have as many organization or user-defined system controls, but the NIST 853 definitely does. And so if you're going to say compliance, then you have to know what that user-defined control is. And so I'm just curious, if you don't use a base number for that, then you can't say you're compliant with whatever the organization defines.
Well, and so as far as what organizations do or define on their own accord based on their own controls, that's where custom assessment templates can come into play. And you can leverage premium assessments and actually convert them to a custom assessment as well to add any of those custom defined controls that you might have as an org that might differ or are required as part of that framework, if that helps to answer part of your question.
Yeah, I guess your answer to how you define it or how you use it within your system is what I need to have the workaround for.
As far as what Microsoft does on your behalf as your cloud provider, is that what you're asking?
Well, just using one account management as an example. So it's create, activate, manage, and deactivate on a user-defined dynamically. So is that monthly, weekly? That's what normally the organization defines. So you can't really assess that control if you don't know what that parameter is.
I got you. Okay. No, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't want to give any bad information. So I know Caiden said he wrote down your info in the question, and we'll definitely get a follow-up to you on that one. It's a good one.
And may I ask another one?
Of course.
So we've implemented Azure Information Protection, and we have labels, sensitivity labels applied to documents that cannot be read in Teams and cannot be read in Word online or Excel online or PowerPoint online because it says you have to open it in your desktop version. So, but Microsoft says they're 100% compatible with using sensitivity labels.
Yes. So a couple things there. So depending on the age of your tenant, there is a setting that has to be turned on in order to enable the ability to leverage sensitivity labels that have encryption enabled on them, and for the Office Online suite to be able to function and work with them in line. Same for Teams. So I'll pull that doc real quick, or I can just make sure Caiden sends it over to you as well as a follow-up. But there's a PowerShell script you run. It's very, very quick and simple that allows that to function so that you can work with them in line. And then there's another new capability that has just released and is rolling out, which is the ability to do modern collaboration in said documents that are encrypted with a sensitivity label, meaning you can then actually leverage multiple people working on the same Word document, even though it's been encrypted with AIP.
That would be very helpful because we implemented AIP a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And then we had to re-implement AIP again when Azure became the overarching, and then we had to combine the, collaboration in another scenario, and we're finding that I can't keep up with you changing how AIP is implemented.
I'm hopeful that the last jump recently where it's in the compliance center is going to be the last one, because I feel your pain and I can't thank you enough for making that journey with us. But yes, I hear you. And then yes, we'll make sure that you get the links to the PowerShell that you're going to need in order to help enable the ability for you to leverage Office Online for those encrypted documents.
Thank you. That'll be very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Any other questions?
Real quick, hey, John, would you be able to drop your email address in the chat? Or if you're not comfortable with that, I will drop mine and you can email me.
I will drop mine.
Thank you.
Just to clarify about what you were saying about the availability of the templates in the assessment or compliance manager. When I look at mine, if I do a search for NIST templates, it shows availability included, and availability premium. So the premium would be the ones that are an extra cost that I would have to purchase outside of our M365 A5 licensing.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a great link, I'm going to pull it up really quick, that actually talks about what templates come with Compliance Manager by default at no additional cost, and then which ones require a cost. So I will put that in the chat right now as well. It does not actually give you pricing, and because you guys are education, you'll want to work directly with your account team and or your reseller to get that pricing, since it's not the same that commercial sees. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, the beauty though is that you can leverage trial licenses for the premium templates so that you can give them a spin without having to commit. And they get added, you'll see a little number count at the top of where the assessments are listed. And then you just add a few. It's tenant wide, so it's not per user, luckily. So you just buy, if you buy one license, for example, it gives you access to one premium assessment and its counterpart universal assessment. So you don't have to pay twice for the universal assessment. I just put that link in the chat there for you. Any other questions? If not, I'll stop the recording and bid you adieu. Okay.
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Caiden, thank you so much for the awesome presentation of Compliance Manager. Really appreciate it for today's Security Office Hours on November 10th. I appreciate everybody joining as well and spending some time with us. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of us within the community. The video will be uploaded here shortly once Steve gets a hold of the recording. Again, thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.